Here's a chance now.
This is British Rugby League's biggest day of the year. 80,000 fans packed into London's Wembley Stadium for the Challenge Cup final. This is the stuff English league players' dreams are made of. And for one young Englishman in the crowd, a few years ago, to play in a Wembley Cup final would have seemed as unlikely as playing rugby for New Zealand. But John Gallagher did play for New Zealand in a stunning All Black career that spanned 41 unbeaten internationals and was broken only by a shock announcement on the 21st of May, 1990.
They made the offer and I talked about it with my parents and a few close friends in London and talked to a few close friends back in New Zealand as well. And they were all of the opinion that I should go for it. And that was my gut reaction as well. So I've done it.
Big money had lured the brilliant fullback to English Rugby League. His new goal would be to take Leeds to the Wembley Cup final. Rugby was the big loser in John Gallagher's change of heart. Lewisham, southeast London, a place that's always been home to John Gallagher. His parents still live here, part of a close-knit Irish community, into which the second of three sons, John Anthony, was born in 1964. As a teenager, John worked in the local Irish pub, the Sir John Morton, run by family friends. This is a place he's always been able to escape to. John Gallagher, All Black superstar, is a bit of a hero around here. His picture takes pride of place on the pub wall. It's 10 years since he worked as a barman here at a time when rugby was just something he was made to play at college. His father Sean and brother Pat have followed John's career closely, like almost everyone in this pub. And around here, they'd have John back behind the bar any time.
A pint of Guinness, please, mate.
Yeah, sure. So from Australia, are you? You'd have to be wearing a tie like that.
When we started here first, I went along in this pub and it was a rough pub. We had a lot of rough customers. I think that's where he got his toughness from, being a rugby player, because several times he assisted me in throwing them out. One particular night I threw a chap out of here and he came back in and John put him out again, out the front door. So he went around the side door to see what was happening and he came back in and the chap said, "How many pubs in Lewisham do you own?" He said he was so drunk he thought he was going into another pub.
Yeah, I had 2 years in here and it was under the auspices of Big Mick Hansbury, the landlord, and my Uncle Joe and my dad. They made sure that I went completely off the rails.
Right, the shamrock.
Right, the shamrock is going to be the difficult bit. This has been quite a while since I've done this one. Here we go. Oops. It looks...
It's been a long time, actually, isn't it?
Yes, well, actually, that should have been a shamrock, but it's not. There you go.
Oh,
It's
beauty.
a D. Now try that.
Cheers. Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, well, you know, you probably sense the atmosphere in here, and it's always like that. You know, it's they're real lovely people, and they're really worried about, you know, me as a person. You know, not the fact that I did fairly well on the sports field. You know, they take a lot of pride out of it, but it doesn't change their attitudes towards me. So, irrespective of whether I'm doing very well or very badly, it's the attitude to me has always been the same. You know, so it's. And I think that's where you feel most comfortable, in an atmosphere like that.
Just down the road from the Sir John Morton is St Joseph's Academy. It was here that John first played rugby, a sport that was strictly part of the school life.
So what, had you heard anything about rugby before? You came here?
No, I didn't know anything about it at all. And because everybody was just soccer mad, really. And I was playing, the prep school I went to, they always played soccer as well. Every lunchtime we always played soccer. Go home, do your homework, go out in the local park and play a game of soccer as well. And it wasn't until I went to this school that we were made to play rugby.
He loved it, but his first love was soccer. And his favourite team were Arsenal. Michael's favourite team was
Chelsea.
Liverpool.
Oh, Liverpool, sorry. Yeah. That was Chelsea.
Yes. And he just loved it. While he was at the junior school, the junior boys' school, St Charles Prep, that was just soccer. which was wonderful. Then he went into the grammar. Of course, it was all rugby. I had to kick a ball, so he played rugby. That's how it came about, really.
You know, I was a mad, keen Arsenal fan, and when I was about 7 years old, somebody asked me what to do when I was a grown-up, and I wanted to be a professional soccer player. Didn't want to do anything else. And it's just like an institution in England, and especially in London as well, I suppose, is that every young child just wants to grow up and play for England at soccer.
But that dream of a Wembley Soccer Cup final ended at St Joe's.
It's a question of playing rugby in the school or going to another school. I found myself in front of the headmaster, and he said to me, I hear, young John, you've missed on game of rugby last weekend. You didn't turn up. What was your reason for it? And I said, well, I got this milk round, and I want to earn a bit of extra money. This was the age of 12, and so he sort of told me no in certain terms. If you want to carry on with the milk round, then you can go to another school.
But St Joe's was not an exclusive public school like those from which English rugby has long drawn its stars.
I sort of woke up to an early age that my face couldn't really fit, not in the English system, because, you know, being an Irish Catholic boy, it was, and going to you know, a non-public school, it was going to be very, very difficult for me.
But 1 year out of school, John received an offer to play on the other side of the world. And in a few short years, English rugby would realise what it had lost.
First try of the match.
Wellington, 1984. John Gallagher had come to New Zealand to play for the Oriental Rongotai Club. He'd heard about Ori's from an old school friend, Tony O'Malley, who'd played there the previous year. It was just his first season in serious rugby when Gallagher was selected for the dynamic Wellington side.
And he's set up John Gallagher, and Wellington, after 8 minutes of play, have gone into the lead by 10 points. 2 penalties, and now the try to the young 20-year-old Englishman, John Gallagher.
Gallagher had made his first ever rep side. It had been a great season, but he needed a career. And at the end of the year, he returned to England to continue a family tradition.
I was in the police force, and my oldest boy, Michael, he wanted to join, and John was going to join with him as well. So they had their initial interviews, and John started, and he lasted for about 10 weeks, you know, through the training period. And he came home one weekend and he spoke to Alan himself, and he said he had the bug to go back to New Zealand again, you know, so he gave up his police career in this country.
After I made the decision to go back, I was sure within myself that it was the right thing to do. But even if it turned out to be the wrong thing to do, at least it was my decision, you know, and I could take it on the chin and say, look, I made a mistake.
We both felt that he had to get it out of his system. At that stage, of course, there was no question of him being an all-black or anything. He just loved New Zealand and he loved the people, and he seemed happy there.
Back in Wellington, John joined the New Zealand Police and consolidated his place at centre for the provincial side. Despite a broken leg late in the season, he was getting noticed by the selectors and the public.
I was always called a Pom at the club, at Ori's club. That was my nickname for the first year, before Kipper even came along. Kipper came along when I first made the Wellington side, but prior to that, I was just the silly bloody Pom, basically. The pasty Pom with the lily white legs, that was me. And so I took a lot of flack, but it was always meant, you know, sort of harmlessly. And it was the same when I made the Wellington side. People obviously realised that I was an Englishman. When I started doing fairly well for the Wellington side, this boy's not a bad Kiwi, is he? But every time I made a mistake, you silly bloody Pom, go home.
The young policeman was settled at centre for Wellington, but the next year Earl Curtin took over as coach, and he had other ideas.
I thought that his pace would be invaluable coming in from the back, and I'd always wanted to play a wider game with Wellington than what they'd been playing, and so I thought I'd go to him and suggest that he play at fullback. Well, his reaction was unprintable, and so in the end I told him that yes, I did want him to play there. He was going to play there. And so I changed him from centre to fullback for Wellington.
Nice transfer to Schuster. Hansen looking for a support, and it comes from Gallagher, John Gallagher.
It was always one of those players where you look at or kind of hoping that he would come out and do something out of the ordinary. You know, especially in the close games and that, he was always someone you could look at and, and he would usually provide it for the team, and you know, it just lifts the whole team and its performance.
Schuster, the Samoan, and Gallagher, the Englishman, became a close combination on and off the field. They were both imports to Wellington, and in private they shared a dream of wearing the All Black jersey.
He was one person who really tries hard and really works hard on something he wants to achieve. And you know, when he knew he had a chance of making the All Blacks, he was, you know, there was nothing that was going to stop him from making the All Blacks.
Because of Jamie Salmon had set the precedent of, you know, an Englishman playing for the All Blacks, I knew that it was possible. Even though I'd never dare say it to anybody at the time, you know, you'd let everybody else say it, but deep down you thought, well, it is possible. It is possible.
Gallagher didn't even make the reserves for the 1986 All Black trials, but that was put right when he was named in the team to tour France. At last he had an All Black jersey.
I picked up my jersey and the rest of the gear, got back, locked myself in the toilet, put the jersey on, and looked at myself in the mirror for about 10 minutes thinking, great, I've done it.
Did you feel that it would have been nicer if it was an England jersey or an Irish jersey?
No. There's the fact just to make the All Blacks with the great tradition that New Zealand has worldwide in rugby, you know, for me, you know, a comparative outsider, you know, to be honoured enough to, you know, wear the All Black jersey, you know, I don't think, you know, even a New Zealand boy, you know, who'd grown up, you know, from the age of, you know, 3 or 4 years old, and he knew about rugby, wanted to be an All Black, I don't think he could have got a greater sensation than I did, you know, so it wasn't wasted on me.
As a utility back, Gallagher played 4 matches in France, but it was in the World Cup the following year that he got his test spot.
Number 4 for John Gallagher.
Against Scotland, with his father watching in the stand for the first time, Gallagher became the undisputed #1 fullback. And in the final against France, his cool head won him more praise.
Oh, look at that! Fingertip control from John Gallagher, and what a clearance!
It was just an amazing day, but yeah, you look back now and you think, oh, you know, were you really part of it? One of the sad things about the day was it would have been nice to sort of, I know, sort of being a dour New Zealand All Black, it's not the done thing, but going up the steps to receive the World Cup and going straight back down to sit in the changing room, you know, with the World Cup, I thought it would have been quite nice to do a bit of a lap of honour or something like that. I might have been rubbing it in a bit, but, you know, why not?
His great attribute was pace, and the other thing was his timing. And I think he showed that when he played against the Argentinians 2 years ago, when he raced into the back line, he actually split them apart. I mean, he just cut them into ribbons with just sheer pace. They couldn't believe anyone was coming in that fast from fullback.
Oh, sensational!
And that was really his great attribute. And the other thing was he was also very brave.
Davis. Well taken by John Gallagher.
There was a brave mark from John Gallagher.
He was very, very brave in Union. He had a terribly strong mental attitude. He used to really work at the mental approach to it. And this is very much a thing for, or should I say, a quality that modern players are going to have to get in rugby.
1989, and the All Blacks once again defend the Bledisloe Cup against Australia. Gallagher was playing better than ever.
Oh, what a great try for the All Blacks.
He'd left the police force and set up his own promotions company, and he had the tour of his career to look forward to. A trip home to England, Wales, and of course, Ireland.
Basher. Schuster left out. Gallagher left out Terry Wright. Oh, Gallagher! And that is the most brilliant try of the tour. Scored by the man the Irish are claiming. But that was a true All Black try.
I was kept asking the whole time, you know, when I was going to stop playing for the All Blacks and come play for Ireland, you see. And I remember walking in to one of the Galway games, or the Galway game, and all these people in the stand. I'm walking in with the All Black blazers on, and all the Maori boys are walking in, the New Zealand boys, you know, dark-skinned and, you know, brown eyes and stuff like that. And I walk in and I hear somebody say, "But Jesus, he looks like one of us."
In May 1990, John returned to England, this time for a dinner to announce the most outstanding rugby player of the previous season.
The International Player of the Year is John Gallagher.
It was an honour that John will always treasure, but ironically on that same trip he was approached by Leeds Rugby League Club and made an offer he couldn't refuse. In May 1990, All Black fullback John Gallagher shocked the rugby world with his announcement that he was off to rugby league.
The offer from Leeds was so attractive that there was no way I'd get another offer like that if I stayed in rugby in New Zealand. And so I just had to take it.
It was as much of a shock for us as it was for anybody else, you know. And there again he wondered what he should do. But once again we had to throw it back at him. You've got to do what you've got to do, and you'll have our backing.
While his parents were delighted at having their son back home, John had to face his friends in Wellington.
It came to me as a real surprise when he decided to go, but you know, he decided in the instant and he was gone. I guess he couldn't, you know, he just couldn't face what he was leaving behind, so he had to shoot off straight away. It's very sad for myself and no, for the team as well. But you know, after that it just wasn't the same for me. You know, I'd go to trainings and I just didn't have the enthusiasm and enjoyment that I used to have. So the opportunity arises to play league, and I took it.
What was it like when you went out there into the Lions' Den, I guess, to sign John up?
Very frightening. Very frightening when I arrived in New Zealand, in Wellington, and to be met by all the press. It really took me back. I've been to New Zealand on 2 occasions on touring parties with the Great Britain side, and I never really thought what rugby union or an All Black meant to the people of New Zealand. And for me to go down there and sign one of them on and fetch him back to England, I think I was lucky to get out of the country.
When John Gallagher quit rugby, he probably had 4 or 5 years left at the top. Then he'd retire with some great memories, but nothing else. There'd be no financial security. The Pommy who became an All Black would have faded into history. But John Gallagher wanted more than that, and British Rugby League could give it to him. They gave him a $1.2 million contract, and from his first appearance in Leeds, Gallagher became the hottest thing on the English sports pages. League had given him the security he felt he needed for life after the game. That was something amateur rugby and New Zealand could never give him.
If you're playing top-level rugby between the age of 20 and 30, and you haven't sussed out anything to do at the end of it, and you've given your best, you know, for the country and everybody loves you, and then 10 years after you're an All Black, you're in a pub and people might come up to you and say, "Oh yeah, g'day, how are you?" Or 20 years after you and saying, "Oh yeah, I was an All Black once," and stuff like that. I think it's very sad. So, for a country to use and to ride on the name of the All Black so much, I think they should be looked after a little bit better.
Do you love league like you obviously love rugby?
I've only been in league a year. I was in rugby union, working out 15 years, and I didn't particularly enjoy the first few years, so it's only natural. You know, it was a real sort of gradual love for the game. But now going to league, you know, I can see the really good sides of it, and it's just a question of maturing those sides of it, and there's a great potential for me to love league, as you say, but it's only going to be the next 4 years of my life. Whereas rugby has been 15 years of my life, and it's going to be a very, very tall order, if not impossible, to emulate what I did in rugby union.
The conversion from rugby to league wasn't easy. As we all knew, Gallagher had pace and he could kick, but when the falls came, they'd be that much harder for the lightly built fullback. His upper body and neck have taken a bashing.
I'm a slow learner, and it's a very physical game. When you field a high kick and you look up and you've got 5 massive players running towards you, all in a straight line, and there's no gaps for you to go, and your wingers aren't back with you, and you can't kick for touch because it's the first tackle. There's not a lot you can do, really. You just got to sort of put on another couple of stone, you know, around here, and hopefully wear a crash helmet, but you can't.
On the physical aspect, there's been a lot of people wanting to put one on John, They put balls high in the air for him. They kick balls deep for him, and John's got to run the ball back out and gain yardage. And that's where the opposition have been lining up to sort of like put a lot of pressure on him.
Gallagher being pushed back. I must say I'm not too impressed with the treatment that Gallagher is receiving. He's had a real introduction to the game. And look at that now. The referee rightly has moved in.
You know, Leeds hadn't won anything major for 11 years, and you know they're a very good side. They've always been, you know, the top half of the table, but hadn't won anything major. And sort of everybody was thinking, now that you've got the International Player of the Year and the All Black fullback, we're going to win everything. And so sort of the spectators, you know, thought, oh yeah, we'll believe that as well. You know, and so when things don't sort of work out the way that the spectators have been led to believe, then I'm the man to get the vote. So.
And what has it been hard?
Yeah, it's been, again, you know, it's last week we played against Castleford, or Castleford, but up here you call it Castleford. And we'd won in the last second, and I had this Leeds spectator run up to me and sort of give me a big kiss on the cheek. There was a bloke, you know, I was a bit worried about that. But probably, you know, the week before, you know, when we'd lost in the league game, you know, I was getting abused, so it's very fickle.
Although overshadowed by the dynamic league debuts of Matthew Ridge and Frano Botica, Gallagher has had his moments of glory. And this is just his first season in a game which until a year ago he knew nothing about.
Having played a full season of rugby league now, the lad's very tough mentally. He's come through all the adversity and criticism and media coverage, and he's come out of it a better person. And it'll be next season when we see John Gallagher make the grade in rugby league at the highest level possible. Well, I'd like to think, I'm very optimistic that when the Great Britain side goes down to New Zealand, I think it's in 2 years' time, that I think he'll be on that plane, playing for Great Britain back in New Zealand.
Meanwhile, John's bought a cottage in the upmarket village of Bramhope, just outside Leeds, and he's concentrating on his studies for a degree in human movement and hopefully a career in physiotherapy. And in some rugby circles, they're still talking about John Gallagher, the one that got away.
It's the flair really coming in from fullback that we miss. But he's not only missed in Wellington level, I think the ghost of Gallagher haunts the New Zealand selectors too, because fine player and all that Kieran Crowley is, he's not quite as quick. And what's happened since is that he's ruined the game worldwide for every potential convener of selectors, because they're continually looking for this fast man that they can adapt to a fullback. So they're all basically trying to do a Gallagher, and we're all looking for that new Gallagher.
John Gallagher now has his financial security, and maybe he'll make it to that Wembley Challenge Cup final. Meantime, he's looking forward to his August wedding to school teacher Anita Veddy. But will John Gallagher ever return to the country that gave him the All Black jersey?
I'd love to go back to New Zealand, but you're thinking long term now. At the moment, well, obviously I'm here for at least another 4 years. But if it was left to me, and, you know, I could sort of make things happen, then I'd get all my friends and all my family over here and shift them all over to New Zealand, but it's not the case, is it?